All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we have Omni Casey, who is a real estate broker and coach for the past 20 years. Omni, how you doing?
Living the dream, loving it.
There we go. Love to hear it, man. And we like to jump right in. So if you could start with telling us a little bit more about yourself and what you like to do for fun, that'd be great.
Yeah, fun's a great one. Trying to figure that out myself. I love business. I love building businesses, and real estate happens to be the best business that I've found. So for the last 20 years, I've done real estate on almost every single angle, from a real estate investor to a broker to a coach. Started out in Hawaii, where I grew up. So being in the islands, I love surfing. I love everything in the water. I currently live on the on the East Coast now, so not a lot of swimmable water where I am right now. I guess there is, but it's a little too cold for me. So more outdoor stuff with my kids, three amazing kids, and I try to keep them involved outdoor activities, but they are definitely learning to be real estate junkies like I am. So our favorite pastime on the weekends is taking a look at, properties that just need work and figuring out, are we going to buy them, or are we checking on projects that are ongoing? And my kids, they're 13, 10 and 8. And so they all kind of play a role in our family real estate investing business. And that's our work and our hobby at the same time.
I gotcha. I gotcha. So do they go around to flips with you?
They absolutely do. Yeah. So they go around, they look at properties. We don't do a lot of flips anymore. It's mainly buy and hold value add projects. Every once in a while we'll do a flip, but yeah, every weekend I'm taking one of them, if not a few of them with me, looking at properties that we're either going to make an offer on, or a property that we're under contract and we're going to go punch a hole in the wall and then let the contractor actually, do the real work.
Yeah. Yeah. I gotcha. There we go. There we go. And so are you focused primarily single family? You do multifamily? You do other asset classes?
Yeah, I ran the gambit. So starting in Hawaii, it was condos because that's what I could afford, and then eventually started to invest out of Hawaii, and that went into single family homes, and cash flow quickly became my focus, and then small and mid-sized multifamily became my sweet spot. So I primarily focus on buying and holding small multifamily. I try to buy in portfolios, so not one at a time. I focus on buying from exiting landlords that are just, they might have 10, 15, 20 properties, hopefully mostly multifamily, and they're just looking to exit. They're looking to just retire. They're getting, tired. It's difficult for someone like that to sell off their entire portfolio. So I try to, be a good buyer and help them get out of that situation. And it puts me in a position where I can buy a bunch of properties at one time, and that gives me a bunch of projects to work on for the next, few months.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Where do you find those investors? Because I'm very familiar with like prop stream and you get like distressed sellers on prop stream, but you're not necessarily getting portfolio sellers on prop stream. So
Yeah, you're exactly right. They're not actively marketing almost anywhere. And so it really is relationships. It really is networking. So I run a group called the Cashflow Breakfast Club. It's an education meetup. It's free, and we've got about 100 people that show up every single month. So every time when we kind of get there, first thing I tell everyone is exactly what I'm looking for. And then we let everyone, say what they're looking for as well. And you tell a group of investors, about 100 investors, what you're looking for. Eventually someone's going to find someone, because what I'm looking for is not exactly what anyone else in the room is looking for. Not many people are looking to buy 10 or 15 properties at one time. So you just, figure out, can you be unique? Can you set yourself apart from most investors? And then start telling everyone what you are looking for. Then the other way I pick up properties is my property managers. And I got various pockets of properties. And I tell them, hey, I want to be your number one client, which means you need to help me find more properties. And if you hear of anything that comes up, or better yet, if any of your clients are looking to retire, if any of your clients are looking to just exit being a landlord, call me. I will make them a fair offer. And then if I buy it, you get to keep all the properties in your portfolio. If someone else buys it, there's a good chance you lose 10 properties.
yeah, yeah, I gotcha. And do you, when you buy these properties, are you taking on investors with the bank debt, or are you financing the whole thing, just you and the bank? How does that work? Are you raising capital or not? Is basically the question.
I'm not raising capital for these properties. These are our personal family portfolios that we do. And so it's self-funded, it's self-saved, it's all of our cash flow over the last 20 years. We do a good job of saving that up. And then we pull out equity when there's equity, and we use that to buy more properties as well. So sometimes I'm doing a cash purchase and then I refinance out and do basically what the BRRRR strategy. I call it the portfolio BRRRR, and I try to put debt on it on the back end. And then if it makes sense, then I will individually purchase. And the problem with a portfolio, and here's why it's hard for many landlords to sell, is they often have debt across all their properties. So they're paid off, 10 years ago, they've had it for a while, and they decided at some point to get a portfolio loan, and a portfolio loan cross collateralizes across all their properties. And so when they sell one property, their lender typically says, hold up, there's some issues with you selling off one property, because this one loan that you have is tied to all the properties. It's doable, but it typically is much more tedious. And so that's why them selling to one investor at one time makes it much more easier for them. So I provide that solution. And because of that problem, I typically don't want a one big portfolio loan. So I typically buy cash, or I'll use hard money or whatever it may be, and then quickly try to refinance into long-term debt if I'm not able to purchase with long-term debt in the beginning.
I gotcha. Awesome, dude. I am a big fan of the real estate game. I actually jumped into the industry as a realtor, and I couldn't get a commission quick enough to um, withstand my savings, and so I had to pivot. But I want to hear more about your start in the industry. Tell us about that, because it's commission only, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So tell us about that beginning.
I love that. And so I was an investor first. It was about 20 years ago in Hawaii. I became an investor, just kind of found a mentor and just kind of jumped in, just, trying to add value, learn. Once I realized I wanted to be in real estate, and real estate, I was a business owner of a few small businesses, and I just knew that, all right, I need to step it up to something bigger, a bigger industry, and real estate was that industry. And so I decided to kind of take this mentee role, apprentice role, if you will, and just kind of, provide value to my mentor. And that got me through several transactions, partnering with him, and eventually earning my way to equity. But eventually my roadblock was actually finding a great agent. And so I became an agent. I got my license primarily because that was a roadblock to the information that I felt I needed at that time. Now, this is 20 years ago. There wasn't a lot of free and available information like there is right now for investors. So I did end up getting my real estate license. Never intended to be a real estate agent, if that makes sense, but it was just kind of just for me doing my own investment deals. I was my best client for my first year. And eventually I started to look at the business of being a real estate agent and a broker in the retail side. And it turned out that that was an amazing business as well. It's more of an active business, less than, not so much a passive business. But if I was going to go all in on real estate, my goal was to have as much passive income as possible, but I needed active income to be able to reinvest and convert that to passive income. So I decided, all right, my active income was going to be a real estate agent. And I found a mentor in that space, and I got as good as possible, made as much money as possible in that space. And I poured almost every single penny that I earned as a commission in the real estate agent space into buying passive income. That passive income is what we use to support our lifestyle. And so we scaled our lifestyle only with our passive income, not our active income, because in commission sales, you might make, $100,000 one month and nothing for 3 months straight. Right. So, so that passive income is really what is predictable. And my goal was in my 20s to have enough passive income to consider myself financially free and be quote unquote retired, so that I can focus on building my next business or shift to whatever I wanted to do. Turns out I really like real estate, so I shifted into more real estate, focuses.
There we go. Yeah. I love it. What is your Are you still pretty active in the brokerage business? Like, you're still operating a brokerage?
Yes. So I run a brokerage. We have about 100 agents, a fairly unique location where I'm the main broker of this location, but I hired a co-broker to help me on the residential agent side. So he does a lot of the agent coaching. I hired a commercial broker to run our commercial pillar. So we have residential, we have commercial, and then we're one of the only investor focused brokers out there, and I run the investment focus side. Really, my goal is to educate all my agents and their friends and their family and their clients about real estate investing, so that no matter what you're doing, if you're earning an active income, whether it's as an agent or as a doctor or as a whatever you do, understanding how real estate investing can be your eventual financial freedom plan if you're pouring your knowledge and you're pouring your focus into that as well. So I almost exclusively help people with the real estate investing, but overseeing about 100 agents.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when you're training your agents, I guess you are more on the investment side and your partner is more on the kind of sales training. But do you guys train them to generate leads through like direct mail, texting, calls, referrals, working referral partners? Like, what's the main lead source for you guys?
Yeah, that's a great question. And so it's interesting because I still do coach on that and train on that. And I did that as an agent, I did that as a broker. And now that I'm coaching and training on the real estate investing, it's all the same. Like how you get leads is how you get leads. Like it's
Yeah.
exactly the same whether you're a real estate agent or a real estate investor trying to get deals. And it really is, it starts out with, building a brand of credibility and networking and getting your name out there. And then eventually once you have the skill sets and the knowledge and you have the understanding of who you should be talking to, figure out how to talk to as many people as possible and have as many conversations as possible. And for some people, that's one-on-one door knocking. Some people, that's mass emails or mass text messages. Some people, that's social media and responding there. So everyone has their niche of, their skill set and comfort zone. They kind of cross there, but do something so you have as many conversations as possible. And we don't decide how you have those conversations. Now, if you do something for a week straight and you haven't had an actual conversation with anyone, then what you're doing is incorrect. You're not doing enough or you're not doing correct. But if you're just posting videos and you are having 10 conversations a day based on those videos, then that works for you. But if you're only posting videos and you're having zero conversations, then that's not what's going to work for you. So you got to figure out how to have conversations, whether they're in person, whether that they're over coffee, whether they're on the phone, whether they're a text message or some sort of messaging. But you got to have a conversation with somebody to build a relationship and eventually figure out, are they either a client or are they a referral source?
Mm, gotcha. Ooh, dude, that was so I love it. And I love it because it talks more about the fundamental of lead gen. And it's like every method works. It depends on who you are and it depends on how you want to do it. But make sure you're hitting this basic KPI, which is conversations to build relationships. And then the goal of those relationships is like, are you going to be a referral source? Are you going to be a client? And I assume you also teach them kind of how to groom into those two outcomes. So that's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. It is relationship based, right? So everything's relationship based. So how many relationships can you have? And you need to have meaningful conversations to kind of grow your relationship from here to here. And so, you need a database, you need a CRM to be able to manage those relationships at a high level. But ultimately, you just need to figure out how to have as many conversations as possible. And depending on where that conversation is, if it's just entry level, they might not be ready to talk about buying or selling real estate yet. Or if you're an investor, they might not be ready to talk about, are they going to sell their property yet? You're just kind of building a relationship. Maybe that's phase 2 or phase 3 for them. But once you get to a building a level of trust where they want to openly talk about real estate with you, then that gives you the best shot at either picking them up as a client or picking them up as a lead if you're an investor.
Mm, perfect wisdom. Like just so like for those beginners in the real estate space, including myself, heed that knowledge. Well, awesome. Omni, tell us a little bit about your motivation. What really gets you up and keeps you going every day?
Yeah. So 20 years of real estate investing. Been fortunate. My family's been fortunate. Like I said, we hit financial freedom fairly early, and then we just been put our head down and just grinding. And and the quote unquote retirement wasn't for me. Turns out I hate retirement, and I love working. I love building things. But what I never did along the way, unfortunately, was I never talked about it. I never shared. I never, like, if someone asked me, I was willing to help them, but we were pretty private. I'm a private person. My wife's a private person. And so we just put our head down. And like last year, the last couple of years was really the first few years we openly talked about the real estate investing. So last year, our goal was to buy, we set a big goal for ourselves. We normally buy 5 to 10 properties, maybe 15 properties a year. Last year, we wanted to buy one property every single week. So we told the world we're going to buy 52 properties in 52 weeks. And that was our mantra the whole year. We never got there. We got so close. We ended up closing on 46 properties by the end of the year, which is a great year for us. But the more we talk about it, the more I realized, man, I should have been doing this earlier, because so many people just kind of come up to you and ask. And I kind of had this limiting belief of I shouldn't be talking about money. I shouldn't be talking about success. That's just how I was brought up, and, just felt like I was, didn't want to brag. But the reality is, the more conversations you have about what you're doing, there are so many people that are thinking the same thing, but they just never had anyone to talk to about it. And so I have friends, I have family that are just getting started now on their financial freedom plan that could have started 20 years ago or 15 years ago if I just opened my mouth, right? So a lot of what I do right now is guilt based. So I feel so much guilt for what I didn't do along the way. Like I said, I feel like I was blessed, and I am still being blessed, being the knowledge in the industry. So almost everything that I do now, I figure out, how can I give back? How can I educate? How can I create a community that will help somebody else, hopefully, change their life, or give them the opportunity to kind of reach their goals.
That is so interesting to think about, like a lot of it being guilt based. And I noticed you mentioned limiting beliefs. We're going to ask a bit more about current limiting beliefs later in the show, but it's crazy how our limiting beliefs impact how we function in the world, and then how that affects how many people we impact. Because you're in a position where you hit financial freedom early on. If you had told more people about it, friends and family, they could have done it with you. And the thing about that is, the goodwill can compound. So if you help your friends and family, they can then help more people. And then those people can then help more people. And the like spreading impact that you would have had would have been so much more if not for that limiting belief. And so it's really interesting that you kind of talk about the guilt of that. Cause I think a lot of people are like, okay, I've shed the limiting belief. Now it's time to go become my best self. But it's like, you are in touch with the impact you could have had and didn't. And that's a unique thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to make up for lost time. It feels like I'm scrambling, and I'm just trying to do as many things as possible. And people keep asking, why are you doing that? Why are you starting up that venture or starting up that? And really, I am trying to make up for lost time. I feel like I need to make up for the sins of my past, if you will. And I have fun doing it. So I'm not saying that I'm not having
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
And it puts me in a position to actively still be motivated and involved. And as my kids get older, they get to see me still in an active role, and hopefully that rubs off on them, and they're able to kind of get that experience and knowledge as well.
Absolutely. Speaking of all of these ventures, let's hear more about your dreams and goals. What is your vision for your life and your businesses?
Yeah, so I'm part of a mastermind group. I don't know if you know Brandon Turner. He's the host of the Bigger Pocket. So a previous host. He's a good friend of mine, and I consider him a mentor and coach. And he has this mastermind called the Maui Mastermind. And we get to go hang out in Maui, and we get to be amongst some amazing investors. But that's really all we talk about for the entire week. Like, we talk
Yeah.
about vision, goals, and things like that. And I've done a few of these now. And so I have this brokerage. I have a personal portfolio business that we're growing, and we're continuing to do that. I'm doing this like major syndication that's a $3 billion development project, and so I'm working on that as well. We're trying to build this mini city, and I've got like three other kind of blue sky goals that I'm working on. And at this last event that was just a few months ago, like we put it all on paper, and we say, okay, what's our goal? What's our focus? What do we care about? And the thing that I care about the most is this free education meetup event that I run. Like, it's called the Castle Breakfast Club. Like, that is the most impactful thing that I do. Like, I've changed more people's lives in that than anything else. And I believe that there's more impact potential on that. And so Brandon, he's like, all right, well, that's your focus. Figure out how to make that your goal and your focus. And, I came out of that event kind of, happy with so many other things that I was working on. And I'm like, man, I gotta scale it up on this. So I created the goal. I had two locations here and Hawaii, my two home bases. I'm like, I gotta, create this event because we have this unique education format. We have this networking, we have this mastermind. So we feel it's a unique thing that does help people. And I said, I made the commitment of I'm going to open up 100 locations in the next 3 years. And it comes down to, how do you open up 100 locations in the next 3 years? I have no idea. Who do I need is really what it is, right?
Yeah,
So it's
who
who,
not
not
how?
how. And so that's it. I'm like, who do I need to find? So I started like figuring out, hired my first intern, that last week, an apprentice, and then slowly adding team members to help me scale out and grow to multiple locations. And then obviously partnering with experienced investors in different markets and provide them this turnkey content that really allows them to provide to their community, right? It's not a business that they're going to make money. I don't make money on this business, but you will be able to impact a lot of lives, and you make a lot of money because you're a real estate investor. You get deals before anyone else. You get opportunities before anyone else. So there's great opportunity for the investors that I partner with, but it's finding the like-minded investors that really just want to give back, pour into their community, and provide that value as they're actively focusing on their financial freedom as well.
Mm, I love that. So growing the Cash Flow Breakfast Club to 100 locations in the next 3 years. And is that in kind of, do you have a target 100 cities? Are you open to that? Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I don't have any preference. Obviously, I want to be in every state if possible. Alaska, I'm a little worried about. I don't have any connections in Alaska yet, but so I wrote a book called The Cash Flow Breakfast Club. That's where it came out, right? So I published the book. It's called The Cash Flow Breakfast Club, and it talks about my story growing up. The process that I went to become financially free, and the process, and it kind of gives you a it is a power parable format. So it follows his character that happens to be very similar to my story growing up, but him stumbling, succeeding, failing, finding mentors, finding this kind of group called the Cash Flow Breakfast Club, and learning and growing within this group. And so that book was published earlier this year, and in there mentioned, hey, if anyone wants to start up a Cash Flow Breakfast Club, reach out to me and I'll be happy to help you. And I've had a ton of people reach out to me. I just never had the bandwidth up until now, and never, not like I really have the bandwidth with now, but never really had the ability to, like, all right, drop what I'm doing and help someone open it up. So now I'm putting the framework in place, and I have a bunch of people that are in a queue waiting to kind of provide that information to them, provide the educational content, provide them the training needed to maybe lead one of those. And I'm excited about it. It's a new venture, but I'm building out the systems as we speak. So the goal is January 1st to flip the switch and open up a few more locations that are waiting, and then actively grow out from there.
Okay. Okay. So we got grow the Cash Flow Breakfast Club to 100 locations in the next 3 years, one in every state. You're currently building a mini city, which is a $3 billion development. Is that right?
Yes. So not building yet. We are working on getting it approved for build. But I'm in Northern Virginia, Loudoun County, just outside of DC. And we started a syndication a few months ago, and we started to raise funds for this amazing, just the closest thing you can call it is a mini city. So it's multifamily, it's commercial, it's retail. It has like a stadium in the middle and a convention center. So we're building this, all inclusive city right next to, public, main transportation, in an area that has a high need for that. We have a high need for housing. We have a high need for more of that commercial space, and there's no entertainment, kind of sports and entertainment venues anywhere near us. And so we have this goal, and we've been working on this goal for a couple of years now. And the green light started to line up just last year, and to the point of, all right, we're ready to go. We have our financing in place. We just need to raise the funds, $52 million accredited investor syndication. And have you ever read the book $100 million Offers by Alex Hormozy?
You know, I've read that book.
That guy is a beast. And so while I'm putting this together, right, and I've been a part of multiple syndications, advisor roles, LP roles, but I personally don't raise funds. Like my investment strategy is I own everything, and so raising funds was something different for me. Although I've been involved in multiple roles in syndications, but I'm reading this book, and you just make an offer. Like, I'm gonna botch the quote, but
So
make an
good that they
offer.
can't say no.
Yes, like so good. Like they feel stupid saying no, something along those lines, right? And
Yeah.
so that's what we did. We just said, all right, like what would be the most amazing syndication? What would be the most amazing return? What would be like the minimal downside risk possible? And so we put that together. It took us about 6 months to kind of refine it. We kind of went through, various iterations of it. And we came up with what we feel is like the perfect, syndication. Now, so many things still need to line up with the zoning and with the land and approval, and that's what we're waiting on right now. But we opened up because we thought we were close on the land, and so we started to take soft commitments on our raise, and we're talking about a $52 million raise from someone that doesn't normally raise money. We got to 75% within like less than a month, like $40 million,
Wow.
right? Of soft commitments, though. We're not taking any money yet. And we're like, man, one, we got there much quicker than we thought we would because we made such an amazing offer. We're giving so much away. But we like, all right, let's pause. We gotta focus on getting the land, and getting past our due diligence because we can't actually take the money until we're done with that. So our goal is hopefully to work through our due diligence on the land and get to the point where we can move forward by the end of this year, if not early January. And then we're going to continue finishing out that syndication raise. But we proved the concept of if you make an amazing offer and you just say, here is everything, here's how we're protecting your money. There's a lot of money out there, and there's a lot of people looking to place money. And we get calls saying, "Hey, I heard about your syndication. Can I invest in it?" I'm like, "Well, we're pausing that right now. We need to get to 2 more checks on our due diligence before we can actually, send out our disclosures and actually take any money, right?" And so, but I credit Alex Hormozy to at least kind of putting me into that mindset of creating this amazing offer, and where I'm tying it to real estate. So I'm excited about it.
That is amazing. I love it so much because I one of my goals in life, this thing behind me, left with love, connected by choice,
Love it.
is um to just raise the standard of living across the world to around middle class America. Nobody needs for food, shelter, water, or concern for their safety. I was like, okay, how can I start on this now? Because I just feel like I'm only 23, but like life passes you by quick. And like 5 years ago, I was 18 and I was thinking about it. And so I had this idea for this just development where it's like could profitably end homelessness in Austin and get those people back on track. That's what I was trying to think of like the numbers for that and what would need to happen. And when you said $3 billion development, it caught my eye because when I ran the numbers, that was about, and I'm very inexperienced with development, but just from what I Googled and stuff, it was like $4 billion. And so I was so curious to hear what you were doing and to hear that it's a mini city. Maybe I need to go run some new numbers.
We got
But
to connect offline because I mean I love your focus. So this is going to get into the weeds, and we probably don't have time to talk about all this, but we actually, our ownership structure is a nonprofit. So we are going to have the city was going to be owned by a nonprofit. It's going to be make a ton of money that will go 100% towards homelessness, towards various causes that are near and dear to us, veteran causes, right? So there's so many things that we care about. And one, we make a lot of money in real estate, and we know how to make money in real estate, and we know how to get a return for our investors, but we have this social need to give back as well. So it's going to be a really good investment, but also we're going to be tied to this really, really cool cause. I was in I go into various schools, middle school, high schools every once in a while, and just kind of present as a business owner. I most recently presented one of the local high schools, I think 11th grade, and the topic was the American dream. So we talked about real estate, investing, and things like that. And I do this almost every single time, but I'm in this room, right? You got these kids, and some of them are excited, some of them could care less, right? But I basically say someone in this room is meant to change the world. That's my belief. I believe someone in this room is meant to change the world, and let that sink in. Like it might be you. Maybe there's multiple people in this room that are meant to change the world. All right, so sink in. Just assume that's you. Now, I'm going to connect with you 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and let's say you didn't change the world. Let's say you didn't make a single impact that you wanted to, that you're dreaming of right now. Why did you not make that impact, or why did you not change the world? And it's awkward silence, right? And the same answer comes out every single time. It's like someone raises their hand, is like, well, didn't have the money to do it.
yep.
I'm like, okay, well, let's figure that out, right? If you can focus on not needing money, If you can focus on not needing money to survive
Yeah.
so that you can go change the world, would you do it? Like, okay, yeah. Like, so that is the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. That's our mantra. It's not about money. We make a lot of money. We like money. We like investing, but can you fast track your financial freedom? Can you get the financial freedom in 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it's going to be, so that once you're financially free, you can do whatever you want. Some of you will choose to sit on the beach, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But some of you will choose to go build something bigger and take bigger risks that just might change the world, because now you can. Because even though you're taking those risks, if it doesn't pay off, you have your passive income that, from your rental properties, more than likely, that are supporting your family, supporting your lifestyle. And I failed many times in business. I failed so many times, but I had this financial safety net of my rental properties.
Mm.
My rental properties allowed me to take risks, and even if I failed, my family didn't suffer. But we were able to succeed on many, many things that I was able to work on because I did not need income. And
Yeah.
so that's the goal. I said, figure out what is your next step. How do you set up a plan for your next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? These are high school kids, to become financially free. Because if you figure that out right now, then you can, before you're 60, 70, 80, start thinking about actually what you're going to do to change the world. And that changes the tone in there. Clearly, not everyone takes it seriously, but hopefully there's a handful of them are saying, you know what? I want to be on that path. I don't want to take the normal path. I don't want to work till I'm 60, 65. And maybe I might be doing something good at that point. You're going to be too tired at that point. I'm
Yeah.
40. I'm tired right now. Right. So the reality is, like, you are going to get burnt out. Life just burns you out. Figure out how to put your head down, sacrifice right now with the goal of becoming financially free. And once you're financially free, figure out what you're going to do to change the world.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. That is like, oh, I love that. I love that energy. I love that concept, because I think so many people, I mean, money is like the number one barrier for people to, like, it's either money, and then if it's not money, it's fear. And really, those things are really closely tied, honestly. And so I've just seen it stop so many people, and it just breaks my heart. And I'm like, we can solve this problem. Like, let's go after it together. Like, I'm starting where you're starting. Like, let's go, you know?
100%.
So for sure. But awesome. Any other dreams or goals that you want to chat about other than the mini city and Cash Flow Breakfast Club?
So I think that's it. I tried to live. I talked about this on a couple other podcasts, but I tried to live my life in decades, right? So my 20s was about financial freedom, and so that was it. Put my head down, like, get as much cash flow as possible. And then my 30s was about generational wealth. I had kids at that time, and figuring out, okay, how do I set up beyond just what I need, and now how do I set up for the next generation, and making sure that they're okay. And then hit 40 last year, and now it's about legacy, right? So everything it is, how do I leave a legacy? How do I make an impact? How do I, then that's where the guilt start to kick in. I'm like, man, I should have been doing this earlier, right?
Yeah.
So it is my legacy projects. I have the big development project, my legacy project. I put out the book because I want to provide a path or some information, and hopefully leave a legacy of people that are taking that path of financial freedom through real estate. And then the Cashflow Breakfast Club is a hands-on expansion of hopefully that legacy of not just myself, but I believe our entire community wants to give back, and it gives them a platform to give back and, once again, become financially free so that they can change the world.
There we go. That legacy is so important. What are the top 1 to 2 skills that you need to develop right now to make these dreams and goals come true?
Oh man, I need way more than 1 to 2 skills. I need to get way, way better at the who, not how, right? And I understand it every single time. I understand I am the worst person to run anything. Like when I started buying properties, I was my own property manager. It turns out I am a terrible property manager. And if I did not realize I was a terrible property manager earlier on and outsource that, I would still have 5 properties, and that's it, maybe, right? So I could not scale beyond a certain level. So, like, whatever my goal is, whatever my vision is, I'm really good at coming up with businesses and starting businesses and coming up with a structure for it. But I really need integrators. And so me, earlier, hiring people is a very important skill set, but hiring people before I actually need them is probably the most important kind of process in my and skill set that I need to learn to be able to scale at the pace that I want to scale.
Hmm, I love that. And what hire do you need to make right now?
So I luckily I just hired somebody last week. And so I created this um I don't know what it's called. So I do mentoring. You know, I have mentors, and but it was never really a position. It was like people just ask me for advice and part of my group, and you know I help a lot as many people as possible, but rarely do I kind of I'm able to take one of those mentors as like a full apprentice that I'm going to be with all the time. So I actually created a role, a paid position, paid mentor, paid apprentice role. Brandon Turner is the one that gave me the idea. He said he grew his whole business based on hiring apprentices and mentors that he eventually scaled into like the CEO of his company, the CFO, you know, key figures, right?
Mhm.
So I have my first apprentice slash mentor that is a paid position. That they're going to be starting next week, but just hired them. I put out a post. Brandon actually reshared the post and commented on it. So I got like a ton of views on it. Like I have no social media presence myself whatsoever. But when Brandon Turner mentions it, people reach out, got like, I don't know, close to 100 inquiries on that alone.
Mm.
But found a really awesome guy that I'm excited to kind of introduce. And if it may just be an intern role, it may just be, you know, 1 year thing for him, or he might be the CFO of my company or the CEO of my company for the expansion for the Cash Flow Breakfast Club. Sky's the limit. I'm going to kind of give him the reins, teach him what to do. And, you know, and if he is who I think he is, he's going to be hiring 10 people over the next year to help him grow his business that I kind of created for him. So that's my goal. I want to find more leaders that will fill in the roles under them versus up until now, I've found almost everyone individually. And I want to be able to step back from that position and let people grow their teams based on the guidelines that I give them.
Mm. I love it. That is a great application of who not how. So
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to, I'll have to follow you and see how your intern is doing on
for sure.
your business for sure. Awesome. Well, what are the highest impact daily actions that are going to tick the needle forward towards your dreams and goals?
So every day, man, there's a lot of daily routines. I'm all about habits and routines. And like if I'm having a bad day or a funky day or whatever it is, I look back and it's probably because I did something different. I did something wrong. And like one little thing just might mess me up. So I'm very strict on trying to make sure I have my morning routine and then my getting in the zone. I call it like getting into the state of flow in the morning is very important for me. So I couldn't go without that. But ultimately, once you get past that, it's figuring out like what is your most important next step. And that is like it's not just a checklist, it's like the next step there. Right. And so people ask, how do I balance so many projects and so many, you know, things that I'm focusing on? I have a spreadsheet, not a spreadsheet, but it's Evernote, right? And in Evernote, there's like 7 different boxes, and these 7 different boxes is home, my investing business, my brokerage, my book, my Cash Flow Breakfast Club expansion, my project, my this, right? So, and then under each of those, there's 1 or 2 bullet points, and that's the next thing that I need to focus on. So it's not like what I need to do this entire year. It's I know where the goal is going to go. I have my vision for that 1 year, 3 year vision for that category. But today, here's what I need to do. Or you know, even if it's not today, if it's this week, if there's 1 or 2 things under this category, get really good at understanding your most important next steps and actually achieving them, checking them off the box. And then once you check them off the box, figure out what are you filling in next? Like what is the next thing that is going to move you closer to your goal? Because sometimes we get busy in life and in work or whatever we're doing, and we might look up and realize we're busy doing things that didn't really matter. Right. So it's understanding how do you focus on things that matter the most to help you kind of focus and get towards your next goal.
Yeah, absolutely. That the men's, I haven't heard that, but I've read The One Thing by Gary Keller. And I feel
Yes.
like it's a very similar vibe of like, what's that next thing that is going to move the needle forward the most? And my question to you is, for those who don't know how to figure out their men's, which is the most important next step, um, what process do you go through to identify that most important next step? Like, are you doing a beginning of the year forecast for the year? And I want to hit this goal. So I know this needs to happen every month. And I know this needs to happen every day. So these are the action steps. Like, are you doing that before? Is it a daily thing? Like, walk me through it.
Yeah, there's and I've evolved this over the years. So I used to do every 10 years. That's why I lived my life in decades. And I think that was a mistake for me, although it helped me achieve a lot of things in a 10-year period, because ultimately I felt like whatever I was doing, I needed to have retired from that. And if I started a business, I needed to have started a business, help it become successful, and be able to step back from that business before the end of the decade, right? So I can start something new. Um, and if I had to do it all over again, I would have done that in every 5 years or every 3 years. So right now I do a 3-year vivid vision. Cameron Harold has a great book called Vivid Vision, and there's many great books out there, but it helps you vision cast what's your next, what's your attainable goal in the next 3 years, and on a weekly basis, and a monthly basis, there are check-ins, kind of to connect you with that big vision. But ultimately, once you look at your weekly and monthly kind of focus, it comes down to tasks at that point, right? So it's hard to understand how making this call or analyzing this property or hiring this person is connected to your 3-year vision. So that's why you're having all these meetings with yourself or with your team along the way. But once you get out of your weekly and monthly meetings with yourself or with your team, you're going to have tasks, and those tasks you just prioritize them. What is the most important next step? So it might not be I need to hire somebody. It might be I need to actually place an ad, or I need to actually, write a job description. That was my most important next step, because hiring somebody was daunting for this role. And then you have to break it down to something, a very, very minute and small step to kind of, get closer to the actual goal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That was so well put. What character trait do you most need to develop right now to make your dream life come true?
Ooh, character trait. I think I would like to say I should be easier on myself. At some point, I would like to feel less guilt and be okay with who I am. But right now, I think that's driving me. And so, my goal is to get to the point where hopefully I give back enough, and hopefully I make an impact enough where I don't need to feel the guilt and kind of keep relying on that guilt, because without that guilt, I don't know if I'm doing what I'm doing right now. Right. So I'm figuring out, how do I kind of move forward, still make the impact that I want, but maybe a driver outside of guilt would be nice. I don't know if that's a character trait in general, but I think a better focus or driver for vision for the future would be nice at some point.
Yeah, I feel that. I feel that. Do you think your guilt is is bad? Like, and I asked that question because, like, I think you recognize it as guilt right now, but it seems like the guilt is rooted in a moral obligation to serve people in the best way possible. And I feel like that in and of itself is very pure motivation. And you're just kind of at the point where you're beating yourself up for not doing that for the past 20 years. But like when I just look at your driver from the outside looking in, I'm like, is it guilt, or is it the thing under guilt that is really pure? And right now it's manifesting as guilt because of just how hard you're being on yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I maybe guilt's not the right word. I don't know what the right word is, but it feels like guilt. And I've come to terms with it, right? So I know what I should have been doing, and I'm okay with my guilt for the moment, because it's driving me to do things. I'm a private person. I'm an introvert. I would not be doing almost anything. I wouldn't be talking on
Yeah,
this podcast. I wouldn't have put out a book. I wouldn't have started a club, right? Unless I felt the need to, and I felt the guilt driving me beyond that, right? So I think right now it's the fuel on my fire. There's a lot of things that I would not be doing without that guilt. So I do value it right now. I just, at some point, I need to be able to replace that fuel with something else. I don't know what it is yet.
I feel you. I feel you. Cool. Well, if there were one or two people that you could meet right now, and these, it can be a specific person or a type of person, and they'd really help you take that next step towards your dreams and goals, who would they be and how would they do it?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about Alex Hormozy a bunch, and so I don't think it's fair to kind of bring him up again. But he's not in the real estate space, but I look up to him so much. Just he's a beast, and so it would be awesome to be able to connect with him just as a business owner. That being said, who I need in my life is I need a COO of my entire life. Like, so I have various businesses and projects and teams set up, and I have my integrators, in each of those. I'm the CEO, COO, CEO over everything, or the visionary over everything. But they're all just kind of, although there's a connection, most of them are real estate related. Um, I I'm the common thread through all of them. So I need someone that's almost like an asset manager for my life, a CEO or integrator for my life, to kind of be a partner in everything that I'm doing. And I just don't know. That's such a big, daunting task, or
Yeah.
that's such a big role to even look at, because I don't know if it exists, right? It's almost like looking for a spouse. I'm married, so I'm not looking for a spouse, but looking for someone like in all your business ventures, even though they're disjointed in a way. So that's probably in the next few years who I need to figure out if that role exists. If not, create one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. When you talked about that, I actually thought of Alex Hormozy and his company, acquisitions.com, because they own like a portfolio of companies. And I'm sure they have somebody, or Layla was talking about hiring herself out of the business. And I feel like that's a similar hire to something you're looking at. I know you don't have a holding company for all your projects, but just a thought.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Well, now we're going to jump into our thriving three. And our first question is, what's your favorite book, movie, or podcast? Pick one.
Book, movie, or podcast, man. Bigger Pockets, obviously, so instrumental for anyone in real estate, right? So that's an amazing podcast. I would say I probably enjoyed it more when Brandon was the host, but it's still,
Yeah.
David's an awesome host, and he's got a great team there. Rich Dad Poor Dad as a book is the one that changed my life, and that's probably cliche because a lot of people as well, and it's more mindset over anything. And so understanding that there was a different way to think of things put me on a path, a business path, that eventually led to real estate as well. So those are two that I tend to talk about quite often.
There we go. And what's one way you like to take care of yourself?
Um, as of late, we force ourselves to go on a lot of vacations, and so we lived a life of, let's just pour everything back into the business. Let's let our rental properties store up money, but we're going to both go buy more rental properties with that. And we did that for so long, where we didn't really enjoy. Um, I'm not going to say we didn't enjoy life. We had a great family, great life, but we didn't get the benefit as often as we should have. So it's intentionally building in, trips with my kids, trips with my wife. Whether they're just weekends, whether they're going back to Hawaii. Sedona, Arizona is one of our favorite places nearby here. So we've gone on, I don't know, 10 or 11 trips this year, where over the last, couple of years, we went on almost no trips, right? So it's making up for lost time, some of it, but intentionally building in, these vacations or these, times to recharge.
Love it. Love it. And what is one action step you can take right now or continue to take if you're already doing it to meet either Alex Hormozy or the COO of your entire life?
Ooh, that's a great question. Alex Ramosi, don't have an answer for that. I guess I could start giving him a shout out a little bit more on podcasts, maybe, and I guess I could actually look him up. Maybe I feel like I'm not ready to connect with him. Nah, I'm ready, but the COO of my life. So I'm a part of a group. It's called Go Abundance, a great group of business minded, and a lot of them are investors, but just business owners in general. And that group, I think, has so many different people, both CEO minded and COO minded, where I think if I just start to talk about it more at the groups and activities that we do of what I'm looking for, I can probably find a partner, for what I'm looking for, or even there's some sort of merger. Find someone doing something very similar to what I'm doing, but I might be playing a role that they need as well, maybe that visionary role. So I think, be more vocal about what I'm looking for, and hopefully people can help me make connections or point me in the right direction.
It's crazy how much of life just comes down to talking to people.
Yep.
All right, we got our last series of questions here, and these can get a bit personal. So if you ever don't want to answer them, just be like, "I'm a pass," and I'll be like,
Yes.
"Okay, cool."
No, I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
this guy. Awesome. What is one limiting belief that continues to pop up in your life, if any?
Yeah. So I guess the one we talked about earlier is, right. This, I don't know if that's a limiting belief, but really, I mean, always have imposter syndrome, always, right? So, and I use that as an excuse why I didn't talk about real estate or talk about my success, because I'm like, I don't know if I had the right to even talk about it. Like I've only done a handful of deals, and then it's like, all right, I've done 100 deals, but still, there's someone else that I shouldn't be the one teaching on this. So I think this imposter syndrome that I have, that I know many high achievers have as well, just getting over that and just getting past that, and being able to say, you have value, you can provide value. One of the core kind of rules within my group, the Casual Breakfast Club, is I don't care if you're brand new. If you've been here 2 months, you're going to help someone that's been here 1 month, right? If you've done one deal, you'll help someone that has done no deals. If you've done 10, right? So no matter where you are, understand that you can be a mentor to somebody, and then someone's going to be a mentor to you, right? So you're not looking for the ultimate Yoda at the top of the totem pole. That's not what we need to be, but we along the way can be mentors. And my own limiting beliefs, even to this day, still kind of limit me to even think about, all right, what should I be doing there?
I got you. I got you. Yeah, the imposter syndrome pops up for a lot of people. Just curious. I know you've done a lot of work on imposter syndrome. Are there any actions that you take to this day, whether it be daily, weekly, monthly, or annually, that reinforce that imposter syndrome in your life? So you have the belief of, am I good enough to really talk about this or do this? Then you have those thoughts, you have those feelings, and then you act based off them. Any of that in your life still?
So that reinforced my imposter syndrome. I think the more I keep to myself, the more I'm like in my own head. Like we're always the worst on ourselves, right? So getting out and creating a community was the first step. And as I'm helping people on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, on a small scale or big scale, as I'm intentionally putting myself in groups, masterminds, training sessions with the highest level achievers in my industry, and realizing like, man, I belong here, right? And so it's doing that on a regular basis that actually helps you maybe recharge your confidence a little bit, recharge your motivation to kind of step outside of your comfort zone. If I go 6 months or a year without any of those kind of events, and I'm back in my shell again, I'm like, man, I don't know if I should be teaching anybody this. I need to figure it out for myself, or I haven't fixed this problem in my business. I got to fix that first before I have the right to tell anyone. So I think it's important to get outside of your comfort zone and really be a part of the community, so that you can see what you are doing to kind of provide value along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting into community, helping people, and just taking the action. If you were to change that limiting belief, that imposter syndrome, that am I good enough to talk about this or do this, into an abundant phrase that really spoke to your heart, what would that phrase be?
And that's deep. An abundant phrase that spoke to my heart. To change that limiting belief, um, I have value, I bring value, and I've changed lives, and I believe I can continue to change lives. Me not putting myself out there, me not stepping outside of my comfort zone, goes against everything that I'm striving for right now. And so if I really truly do want to believe, truly do want to make an impact and leave a legacy, I need to be uncomfortable. I need to absolutely, silence those voices in my head that are telling me don't do that or stop, or you're not, you shouldn't be, you're not at a place where you should be doing that. And really just see the impact that I'm having. So, yeah, that's not really one affirmation or one thing, but I think that's what something along the lines of what it needs to sound like.
There we go. Great answer. Great answer. We got one last question for you. You ready?
Yes.
All right, I want to frame this next question, and I'm going to frame it by introducing Alex Hormozy again. So, Alex said that the difference between manipulation and help is intent. And I think his point here is that you're influencing people in both situations, but manipulation is about getting somebody to do something you want them to do, while help is about seeking to understand what somebody else wants and helping them get there. So, this question is about help, not manipulation. Now, there's a common saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I actually found out from Dr. Alan Leica, who was a guest on the show, that you can make a horse drink. You just have to salt its oats. Now, I want you to think of a person with a really fixed mindset, not willing to accept help, not willing to accept change, but they hate their life. How can we, you and I, create an environment to salt their oats and help them change their life?
Man, that is a great question. I love how you framed that. I never heard that quote from Alex Hormozy, but doesn't surprise me at all. Reminds me of a book that by Dr. Robert Cialdini. It's called Persuasion, and it talks about the human nature and talks about psychology and I teach a class called it's a Jedi focused class, Star Wars theme, but using your mind right to help people make a decision. And you're exactly right, right? So a Jedi uses their power or their mind, but for good, hopefully, versus the dark side, right? So,
Yeah.
so these skill sets we can absolutely influence people, but it's helping them do something that is important to them. So, as a real estate agent, I found this out along the way because in the beginning I was like, well, I don't want to push anybody. I don't want to come off like salesy or aggressive, and then we went through a cycle where people that didn't buy because I did not give them enough positive reinforcement that they should be buying that property. That was the right deal. That was the right investment for them. 2 years later are looking at me like regretting life, regretting their decision and saying, you should have pushed me. Right. So I found that there are some people, many people that will not make a decision for their own good unless they're nudged, at least nudged in the right way. And really, I think it comes down to your confidence and your belief in what is right and what is helpful for at least your situation, and is your situation relatable to whoever you're trying to help along the way. So I'm passionate about real estate investing, and so I feel confident standing on the mountaintop, shouting from the mountaintop and saying everyone should be a real estate investor to some level, right? Whether it's active or passive. And I didn't have that confidence early on, right? It was for me, but now I know everyone should be involved in some level, right? And so I think getting confident in what works for you, and I'm bad at confrontation, right? So there's family and friends I have not went to. I wrote a book so I didn't have to go to them. Like they can go order the book and hear what I'm like I should have been telling them, out front. So I guess maybe put out a book and that helps them. But if someone is their life is miserable, right? It's figuring out is there some sort of intervention that you can have and come down to their core of what changes need to happen. And ultimately there's a reason behind the reason, and they might be miserable because they're tired, they might be miserable because their job, they might be miserable because they don't have the things that they want. And I really look at that, all of that is tied to freedom. Like if someone had freedom, financial freedom, and that buys them their time freedom. If they had financial freedom, that buys them the ability to make a decision to live their life the way they want. So that is the answer for so many problems for me. If someone's having an issue, I always ask myself, could this be solved or resolved if they were financially free? The answer is not always yes, but like 99% of the time it's yes. And so
Literally.
I understand how to help people become financially free. That is almost always the path that I take them on.
There we go. Omni. Thank you so much for coming on the show. That's all we got for you.
Appreciate it. Love it. This is a great show. And I look forward to connecting with you offline a little bit more about some of that stuff as well.
Of course. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on, guys. Thank you for watching. If you loved what he had to say, make sure to check out the show notes. All the links to contact him will be right there. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.